hang out, you know, and unless we do our part and step up, we will be annihilated. And that's also one of our aims, is to save us from annihilation. So, didn't mean to go off in a little tangent.
Right,
but,
right. No, it's not a tangent. The international, well, Ethiopian World Federation. We've been hearing about the Ethiopian World Federation now for quite some time, and as you just outlined, that presently the organization is in some legal wranglings or some legal proceedings right now. So, what do you, in your opinion, what do you feel as the international image of the organization? Because it's been heard about all around the world, but presently, what do you feel like the present image of the organization worldwide really is right now?
Well, the image is not so good right now, because we're not doing what, you know, we're mandated to do.
Yes.
For instance, the other day was what occurred in Louisiana and Mississippi, Alabama, and what's going to occur in other places, you know, is we, the Ethiopian World Federation Incorporated, that should be stepping up to take care of our people. But because we are not financially and mentally, spiritually at that point, we weren't ready. So, you know, this is the time to be ready. And it's calling on all black people, because when you say Ethiopia, anytime somebody says Ethiopia, it means black people. Black people. Ethiopia means black people. So anytime you say Ethiopian, it means the people, black people. So don't, you know, our people needn't think that Ethiopia is that country. It's not just that country. That's what it moved down to be, that country, but it was the whole entire continent was Ethiopia. And due to the conquest, then the land got smaller. But it's all Ethiopia, and we're responsible for all that. We're responsible for the unity, we're responsible for the solidarity, the liberty, the freedom. These are things not that we just should talk about or have a model city written out all nice and a plan on paper. It's got to be more than on paper. It has to be real. And if it's not real, we will be annihilated as a people. Look at Louisiana, you know. I don't hear anybody crying out that they say there's 1,000, it's about 1,000 people died in the hurricane in Louisiana and Alabama and Mississippi. That's a lie. We know there's many more people, but nobody cried out and said, you know, that's a joke. So what are we doing as a people? We're sleeping it. We're watching our unpreparedness to take care of ourselves and our own situations. It seems
sad that the masses of our people seem to be in a comfortably uncomfortable state, and the whole inspiration and inborn vibes, or inspiration to really stand up and to do for self and to unite as a people, it seems that even up to this day, it's not really in the forefront of the mind of our peoples.
Well, you know that here in America, probably one of the worst things that did happen to us was integration. And the integration, the form of so-called integration of being allowed to attend certain things and move into other neighborhoods. What that did was tear down our own neighborhoods and our own businesses, because at that time we had everything. We had our own infrastructures in place.
When in America, when the races were kept separate.
Right.
Okay.
So we had more power, more control of ourselves. Our children, we raised our own children, we educated our own children, so when we sent our children to school and they came back home, they still came back as our children. Now when we send our children to school and they come back home, they're no longer our children. And while our children are, as I say, killing each other, our sons and daughters are killing each other, the real culprit sits back and looks like they're innocent.
So the whole point of of integration more or less came in like a sabotage.
Yes, it's sabotage.
Sabotage to the people.
Many levels.
In the form of liberty, it came in the form of the guise of freedom, but in actuality, it's a sabotage.
It was a sabotage. In many levels, economically, I mean, even in schools, if you look now at your major schools, I mean, let's look in sports, just look in sports in the school. In your major Ivy League schools, there are brothers there. Well, those brothers, couldn't go to those schools. So they were in their own schools. So our schools was definitely whipping those schools.
They call
so you
Ivy
see, well, the Ivy League was getting whipped. So that broke that down. It broke down our businesses. We had our own insurance company. We had our own everything because we had to have our own everything. And we knew always how to have our own everything. So integration made us lazy and to forget ourselves.
Right, because you would think at that time, if white doctors didn't want to treat black people, then the black people had no choice but to create their own doctors. If they didn't want to be accepted in the black stores, they had no choice but to create their own businesses and their own banking systems and these type of things.
Right. So we spent money with ourselves. Whereas now, we don't spend money with ourselves. We spend money with ourselves last. So we spend money with others. So that builds others' infrastructures while ours crumbles. It makes us to look like we don't have any money, which is not true.
So what is some of the like the present work that's really going on right now within the organization?
Well, first thing on our agenda is getting a headquarters in Harlem.
The headquarters.
That's very important. The Ethiopian War Federation, as you know, was founded in 1937. In Harlem, that was the headquarters. And it was blacks from mostly so-called black Americans, but that came to the aid of Ethiopia. And our emperor, through Malaku Bayan, gave us a land grant for the black people of the world. That was to save us from annihilation here in the West. And we must prepare ourselves for that in more than just lip service. So first is to get our headquarters, and once we get our headquarters firm and straight in Harlem, then, as you know, we have international locals that tie in all over the world, and I'm looking forward to the strength, because any program or plans that we have is going to take economics for us to do them. And as locals all over the world, we all have things that we can, and items and goods, services that we can trade with one another to build up our economic structure, which would enable us to, as I say, carry out some of those plans, and in repatriating our people to Ethiopia.
Okay. As you speak on the point of repatriation of our peoples to Ethiopia, it's basic a common knowledge that the Ethiopian World Federation has an association or a connection historical with the land in Ethiopia called Shashamani in the Malkoda area. And what do you really see as the president right now in terms of any prospects for repatriation or in terms of resettlement in that Pacific area, even though we know that all of Africa belongs to our people? But in terms of that specific landmass, because the name Shashamani, it has grown to like we would say legendary or mythical proportion in that